To what extent do you think the role of vice senior man is that of a vice president rather than that of a college secretary?
Hi guys, I'm Jonathan. I'd like to start just by thanking everybody for turning up this evening. It's really nice when people find it really important and matters in the JCR. And thanks a lot for opening your doors for me canvassing you this week. And I'm very sorry to the people who I didn't quite get round to. So the question is, to what extent is VSM a vice presidential role rather than a secretarial role? So what does the VSM actually do? He is the connection between the JCR and the executive committee. He writes the JCR newsletter and sends several other emails. He holds the rest of the exec accountable to make sure that they do the jobs that they're supposed to do. And there's a lot of administration work, and you have to be very, very organised to do the role. And I think if you do all this, you'll be a very good VSM. So in that respect, it is a secretarial role. But I don't just want to be a good VSM, I want to be the best that I possibly can be. And I think to do this, it needs a little bit more forward thinking. So you can say that it is more of a vice presidential role, and these are the things that I want to do to try and show that. I want to make the role of vice senior man a more visible one. Something like so you're not just sat in your room all the time sending emails and doing administrative work. The JCR sees you, you're down there, you're talking to people. You want to be that friendly face that people come to if you've got a problem with the JCR. For those of you who've also seen my manifesto, the other thing I want to do is really improve this JCR website. Make it the source of information that people go to if they want to find out about the JCR. Train people who are on sports and societies within college to be able to easily update their page on the website. And it will just be the thing that everyone goes to if they need to know a bit more. I also want to bring forward the room ballot. Currently it's only 2 weeks before the Easter holidays, which doesn't give second years a lot of time to find a house and find housemates if they're not on the ballot. So I'm suggesting bring that forward to the second or third week of term, and it will just reduce a lot of stress. So things like this make the role a little bit more vice presidential. And I think this is right. 5 years ago or so, there wasn't a vice senior man post on the executive committee. There was just a JCR secretary. And that was changed because there are more responsibilities than just secretarial work. This balance between secretarial and vice president is the sort of the reason why I applied for the role. I love college. I really want to improve it rather than just sustain it. And I really enjoy sending out all the emails, as people on CSAFE Primary Education would have seen. I just want to do right by you guys and make sure that if I were to be the one elected, then you're confident in your decision. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I'm Nick. Thank you very much for coming. It's really, really good to see so many people actually interested in how the JCR is governed, and for me personally that's quite a positive thing. Anyway, in response to the question, I think there is a general perception that the vice senior man is not a secretary or a vice president, but a combination of the two. But I still don't feel that quite sums up the role of vice senior man. Basically, I think there are secretarial and vice presidential traits to the role, but I think the role of vice senior man goes much, much further than that. So yes, so the secretarial traits, we have like the minutes and organising the meetings of the JCR. There's massive correspondence between the JCR to the vice senior man to the JCR, and basically, I think that although it's fundamental to being vice senior man, I think the vice president presidential aspects kind of undermine the role even more. I think the vice president suggests that you're sort of submissive to the senior man, but I don't think that's right. I think the vice senior man has much more autonomy than that, and I really see the vice senior man as more of a whip of the exec, trying to kind of keep the exec in line and then keep them fully accountable to the whole of the JCR and not just the position of vice senior man. So on that, there are other responsibilities that the vice senior man has to undertake, which I don't think a secretary or vice president would do. For example, that's running the Standing Orders Committee, UCSSFC, and so really I think there's definitely more fundamental aspects than a secretary or a vice president would undertake. So really, just to conclude on that, I think it would undermine Ed and previous vice senior men to say that they're a secretary or a vice senior man or a vice president or a combination of both. really I think Vice Senior Man is quite a unique role, and hopefully I could put all my efforts into making it what I want it to be, and hopefully it will benefit college in the best way.
Alright guys, we're going to alternate who answers the question first, so we'll start with Nick this time. I'd like to open it up to the floor. Joe, I can see you've got your hand up.
You're both speaking about accountability of the exec. So how would you make the exec accountable, and how would you make yourself accountable?
Sorry, I just need to get it for the camera. How would you make the exec more accountable, and how would you keep yourself accountable to the JCR?
Okay, so like I said, I think the accountability aspect of Vice Senior Man is the most integral part of the role. And the way I really want to get on top of that, it's been said for years that transparency and accountability need to be improved, but I really want to do something about it this year. And by doing that, I want to utilise the JCR website. So what I want to do is I think Ed's making really good progress in doing the right things with he's made bi-weekly report forms that the whole exec have to fill in. So what I want to do is get those forms and put them online, and then any other fundamental changes that the exec are going to make, I also want them to go online. So basically, I want a commenting system to go on that as well, so it'll be more of a forum. So really, the exec will be held accountable to the whole of the JCR, rather than just the Vice Senior Man. I think it's right that really the exec should fear the JCR and not the other way around. So really, with constant response and the exec feel like they're being watched, I think that's the best way to go about it. And by holding myself accountable, I suppose I do the same thing and provide what I think I've been keeping up to as well. If that answers your question.
Yeah, as Nick said, Ed has brought out new things this year. They are forms that each exec has to fill in, and he has meetings with them every 2 weeks. And it just says what that person achieves to do in those 2 weeks and how they've achieved that. I think this is a really good way of making sure that you keep on top of what people are doing on the exec. In terms of everyone being accountable, I think it's really easy to forget that we're all fee-paying members of this JCR. We all pay £50 to be a part of it. So I think it's important to release information like financial information, which is something that we've been trying to do on the finance committee. So what I want to do is every meeting that only the exec attend, or every meeting that Senior Man has to go to at the university, maybe write a very small, concise report on the fact that it's actually occurred and what has happened in it. Because us guys are elected to represent you guys. We are you in condensed form, and we shouldn't be doing anything behind your back. You should be able to know everything that's going on within reason. So I think it is important, like as Vice Senior Man, as the communicator, to relay that information back to the JCR. I don't want to do anything behind your backs.
Alright, does anyone else have a question from the floor?
Yeah.
Niall.
Every year, the Vice Senior event said they're going to make green ballots easier, and that we will get on that date earlier. That's not possible this year because you don't get the numbers to a certain point. How else do you intend to change the green ballot? That's it.
Would you be able to expand on your policy for changes to the room ballot procedure?
Okay, so what happens at the moment is it's released 2 weeks before the Christmas holidays. And the reason for this is the college are waiting for a quota of freshers for the year after from the university. So they just get told, you're having X amount of freshers this year, so you can work out how many rooms are available. So the ballot is released as soon as they know this information. What I'm proposing to do is bring it forward to the second or third week of term and just release the list of where people are on the ballot. That way people who are at 200, they know that they're not going to be able to, they probably won't be able to get a room in college. They don't need to know how many rooms are available because it's never going to be that many. So they can start looking into alternative arrangements about housing. If you're in the top 40, you know exactly where you are. And the fact that everyone is dropping out all the time, and there's never going to be like so many more freshers or so many less freshers each year. So it's going to be roughly the same. So you don't really care 2 weeks into term how many rooms are available. You just want to know whereabouts you are on the ballot. I've spoken to Ed about this, and Ed's spoken to Lynn about it, and it is a possibility, and it's something that I'd start looking into if I were to get elected tomorrow.
I actually agree with Johnny on that point. I think the only way that you could actually reform the ballot procedure would be to have a provisional one. Although it's not still ideal, I think it would be a better solution than what we've got at the moment. The extent to changing the whole thing, I think it's a thing that the college does not have that much influence over, which is a shame. If something was to get changed, it is something that would have to be a motion put to the JCR. And then it would be taken hopefully via the senior man to the university to try and get the numbers sooner. But so I think the provisional ballot is definitely the best idea. But unfortunately, I'd hate to say it, but the actual change of the ballot is actually out of the reach of college, unfortunately.
All right. Does anyone else have a question? You just stick your hand up. Ollie.
You've both spoken about wanting to use the JCR website more and put more stuff online. This is something that's been said in every VSM Hustings since I've been here. And we have also seen that there has been a few issues with some of the stuff that's been tried to introduce this year. How are you going to make that different to anyone else?
Okay, so how are you going to make sure that the changes to the website that you've talked about, each of you, would go through?
Thank you. So I think the changes to the website this year will be the most fundamental to any previous year, because the website, the Newcastle JCR website, is brand new for this academic year, and it looks really, really good, really, really professional. But it just needs polishing up. So hopefully a lot of the issues with it are teething problems that will be kind of smoothed over. In an ideal world, they would iron themselves out over time. But that probably may not be the case. So I think it's really, really a case of trying to work together with a computer officer. We need a really, really good computer officer, and hopefully getting a website team to pull together the website, get in touch with the people making the website. So it's really fast when we want to update it. It's really fast. Really, the responses are good. So I think it's a case of kind of getting the information on there over the summer, and then kind of drilling it into freshers that the website is important. Like, so it should be duo, emails, Castle JCR website, that type of thing.
Yeah, as Nick said, it is brand new this year, so it is something that you can see all the potential that's in the website. There's so many pages there on each sport and society, and you click on them and it's like, sorry, this page does not exist. So I've had some experience with website design in the past, nothing major, but I believe I'll be able to get my head around how this one works relatively quickly. I then want to start training people who are on the execs for sports and societies within college, so they can easily update their page on the website and don't have to, if they want information going on there, send an email to Ed or computer officer, and so before it goes on there. So I think that's a key point, training people who are in charge of their own page. Things that can go on there are like a calendar for all forthcoming events, news and information that people outside the JCR, like for example potential students, can look at. And I think that once this is done, there will be so much more on there. I don't make empty promises. This is one of the main things on my manifesto. It's the thing that I'm really, really keen on. I really want to push the development in this website, because when you look at other JCRs, that we are way behind, and we shouldn't be like that. So yeah, I think it is something that we should look into, and it also means that when that is fully developed, we can start designing an app. This is something that Ed mentioned last year, and it can't be thought about before the website is fully functioning. But just imagine how awesome it would be to make things that easy. I think it really is a goal.
Alright, do we have any other questions on the floor? Would you like something?
This year, the attendance at JCR meetings seems to have been quite a lot less than it was last year. How do you propose to improve this, and also maintain people's interest in college and actually make sure that they care?
Do you have plans to increase JCR attendance and also increase people's enthusiasm about college when JCR matters?
Okay, so for those of you who attended the last meeting, sorry, current exec for saying this, but it was quite boring. There wasn't a lot. It took about, everyone spent a long time explaining. It's very important everyone spent a long time explaining what they'd done, and sometimes it wasn't a massive amount. I think the exec, sorry, I think what should be happening is the exec, they only say something in the meetings if they've done something that affects everyone, that everyone wants to know about. But I think the thing is, people don't attend JCR meetings because they are like that. They are a big deal. Something that I've got on my manifesto is to create more channels so that people can get the problems across. So things like forums and drop-in sessions. I think forums are a really good idea, things that are more informal. So if you've got a problem, instead of having to stand up in front of 100 people at a JCR meeting or being intimidated to go to Norman Gallery, you can just speak one-to-one with a member of the exec. And the way I propose doing this is a couple of people from the exec every weekend or on a weeknight or something, just come down to the Undie and West Courtyard, potter around, talk to a few people one-to-one, because it's a lot easier if we make the effort to talk to you guys and get your problems than the other way around. And I think if we do that, people will be more interested because their problems are actually getting put across. So in turn, that will improve JCR, like attendance at JCR meetings. Maybe more pizza as well. I think that would be more of an incentive for people to come.
You're right, I do think that attendance has been lower this year for JCR meetings, and I think it is come to the point where, yes, JCR meetings are quite dull. But I think it's a case of people also not attending. There's a massive information loss between what's coming up in the JCR meeting and what's actually, so people aren't really prepared for what's going on. So one way I propose to combat this would be to completely publicise absolutely everything beforehand, so people have an idea of what's going on beforehand. And hopefully with some sort of forum on it, main kind of issues already have people who form opinions and already be debates on the main things. So when it comes to a JCR meeting, they'll kind of go over the more contentious issues a little bit quicker. Another way I think JCR meetings would be more popular is to make them a bit more fun, so to speak, because everyone knows like the best JCR meeting is the last one of term when the Freps are elected. So what I want to do is put a really fun JCR meeting in Freshers Week, so Freshers are like, get really engaged with JCR meetings, see they're really, really fun to go to and want to go to them for the rest of the year, and hopefully it wouldn't be a boring one that would ruin the whole week. But I also think that if things should be more about the elections of officers in the meetings as well, because if people aren't going to the meetings, people aren't running for the positions. The non-exec positions are really, really important to the college. So hopefully if more people are showing up, so they're a bit more fun about the elections, and then people will come along.
At the back, George.
Candidates have gone into detail about how to overhaul the JCR website. There's current sort of website development in Athletic that I appreciate how long it actually takes to do these sort of things. I want to realistically have some sort of time frame how you can time manage overhauling the whole website, bringing in sort of apps, and doing this within your original roles as vice senior manager.
George wants to know. He wants to know if you have practical ideas for implementing changes to the website, if you have an understanding of the time scales required and time management techniques you might employ to effectively realise the goals.
Yeah, well, from conversations with the current exec, I'm well aware of the situation that we're in at the moment, where like the website service providers have not been that helpful. They've not responded very well and been doing what we've asked, basically. So I know it is a lot of hard work, but like I say, the kind of the basis for the website is there, and hopefully it's more of a case of just putting the information in and kind of streamlining the whole thing. I think you need to really, really work together with the computer officer and then kind of expand the roles of the new website officers that Simon's brought in, work together and give people dedicated roles just to keep kind of going over the website and making it a bit better.
Yeah, I agree. The exec do a lot of stuff already, and adding something like this would be more time consuming. What I think it is very important to be realistic about it. It's not something that I'm saying, oh, we'll do this website, we'll get it all done, and it'll be brilliant for when the freshers come next year. But if you look at it at the moment, it's only used for a formal sign-up and for packed lunch sign-up, and it could be a hell of a lot better. So what I'm saying is we're going to look into ways of improving that. So with the training of people on sports and society execs, at least then there will be some information on each sport and society. So I've spoken to a lot of people who sorry, I'll get onto that point in a minute. And also, like, say, the social chair could put something like just a calendar. It wouldn't take a lot of time, and just some for when ends are coming up further in the year. So I was speaking to a fresher this week who wanted to go home at some point, but didn't know like whether there was anything going on in college that week. So it definitely needs to be done. But I'm not saying do it all in one go because it'll just be way too time-consuming.
Alright, I think we've pretty much covered the website now, so if we could look towards other topics, that'd be good, thanks. Ed, would you like to ask a question?
The role of Vice Senior Man involves sending lots of fairly dull emails, so sometimes they need to be spiced up with a bit of humour. Could you demonstrate your humour by perhaps sharing a joke with us here tonight?
No, sorry.
Okay, what's got 2 legs and is red all over? Half a cat. I'm sorry, right. Do you remember when I did this thing with what was it, the University Challenge thing, and it was halfway through, I was reading out the questions and it was halfway through, and I was like, I know it'd be really good to make some jokes up, but like, I'm a big fan of anti-jokes, so like, they will always sink, and I'm very sorry about that. I probably wouldn't include them in things like the JCR newsletter, it could get quite offensive, but yeah, I hope some of my friends agree that I'm quite a fun person. So yeah, one of my aims is to try and make people read this JCR newsletter, try like spice it up a bit. With my experience with CCA primary education, I do try and make it a bit funny. Things like it's CCA PE, so like CCA perfection. I thought that was really funny. So yeah, more stuff like that. Just a bit of spicy. Such a bad. I'm done with that.
I quit my job at L'Oreal. Just wasn't worth it. That's it.
Does anyone else have a question? Mike?
Jack, marry a boy, Packham, Gibbs, Gallo.
Yeah, just for anyone who didn't get that, that's shag, marry, avoid. Who were the 3 candidates?
Packham, Gibbs and Gallo.
Packham, Gibbs and Gallo. We'd like reasons, of course, not just...
Of course, yeah. I think I'd have to marry Ed. I think we're... don't shake your head. I think we're quite similar. I like to think so. So I think our relationship would be long-lasting. I'd shag Packham, lift him, fine figure of a man, and so sorry, Simon. I'd have to avoid you. I just think your personality was just too much for me. I'm sorry. It's kind of a compliment.
Okay, so I've applied for a bar job 3 times. So, sorry Packham, you're dead.
It's a boy, not kill.
Well, it's still killing me. I'd have to marry Simon. I think he'd be a great cuddler. So that leaves Ed. Well done.
Cheers, guys. Does anyone else have anything? Yep, James?
You spoke a lot about accountability. I would propose to keep the exec accountable if you are then on the exec. It's a lot easier to say when you're just a JCR member, the exec, like, you should hold the exec accountable. Once you're part of the exec, it's a lot more difficult.
How would you keep the exec accountable, being part of the exec yourself? How would you maintain that balance?
Okay, so I think one of the hardest things about keeping the exec accountable when you're on the exec is the fact that a lot of the time you're working with people who you've known for years and you are friends with. Now, going back to CCA primary education again, my co-manager is Holly Scott. Oh, is she gone? Oh, no. Well, I promise she is my co-manager, and she is one of my best friends. But if she doesn't do something, I do tell her to do it. And it's the same the other way around. Like if it's just something like, have you got in touch with the school yet to try and establish another connection? So like, it's not a problem that I have. Like I'm very passionate about the role. I care a lot more than representing you guys well and doing my job properly and doing good by the JCR than having to have than not doing my role just to not face up to confrontation with my friends. So I don't think I will have a problem in making people accountable. And saying that as well, I don't have a problem. Like if I've done something wrong, I'm very like you can criticise me. I will hold my hands up if I promise to do something and don't do it. But no, I don't want to get to that stage.
So like I said earlier, the way I want to keep the exec accountable is to put these forms online, and so really I think the best way to achieve kind of getting yourself out of that situation where you may be like, oh, it's okay, you get away with it, you have to keep the whole exec accountable to the whole of the JCR and not just to the role of VSM. So I think by putting things online and then having the ability for people to comment on it, the exec then think people are watching them and they have to pull their finger out. It's not good enough that, I'm not sure, it's obviously not happened this year, but I'm sure in previous years, the whole exec have got on really well and things have just slid under the table. So it really is a case of the exec being scared, like I said, of the JCR.
I think we've probably got time for one more question from the floor. Yeah, would you like to?
What unique skills could you bring to Vice Senior Man never seen before?
What unique skills could you bring to Vice Senior Man that have never been seen before?
Right. I'm quite handy at card tricks. We don't have any cards, which is a shame. The best thing I can think of, I could try and do the worm, but I wouldn't go very well, really. Okay, I really can't do this. I don't even know why I said that.
What, you want me to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not doing that, I've got no upper body strength this morning. For those of you who saw me during Freshers Week or during the Panto, you know I look very good in a skirt and a cheerleader's outfit or with boobs or anything like that.
Just so you know, Ed's bleeding, by the way.
Yeah, that's alright. So yeah, a unique quality I've got is I don't know how hot as both a boy and a girl. Going back to Panto again, if you want me to do a party trick, I'll do something that I learned during Panto week, and that's a slot drop.
Super slot drop.
Super slot drop. So you grab and you go. Sorry that no one saw that. If you ask me later if you want to. I'll do it.
Right, just to end things, would you be able to pick one point from your manifesto that you think is perhaps your strongest, and just explain that, and that'll be the end of the Hustings?
I'm not going to go back to the JCR website point, you'll be bored enough with it. Okay, I'm going to do there's something that you might have seen in my manifesto which is a bit different, is the college colour process. For those of you that don't know what it is, it's at the end of the year. People who are seen to have done something really good towards college are awarded their colours. And for guys this means they get a tie, and for girls they get a scarf. Now, at the moment, the way that you're considered for them is if one of your friends applies on your behalf, which is great, but I think a lot of people can be missed out. A lot of people aren't considered when they really have done something great. So, I'm not saying it's something that is going to be achieved, but I really want to improve this process. One, by extending the committee, instead of just senior man, vice senior man, and I think it's USO, I want to have 2 or 3 representatives from each year who can sit on the committee and decide who has done something great. I want to get sports captains to nominate someone in their sport who can be considered for them, and I want to see what people have done at university level, because I think they deserve being commended for it as well. I just want it to be something that is a lot bigger and a lot nicer than what it is now, because at the moment, I'm guessing not a lot of people know about it. Yeah.
One point on my manifesto that's not really come up yet is I said I wanted to improve relationships with the MCR, and I think that really is quite important because I've spoken to Eva about this, and she says she just thinks there is a danger of us being bulldozed by the MCR because they are growing massively in size. So really, I think it's a case of kind of collaborating with them to become more collegiate, but at the same time, we need to keep the common rooms distinct and separate. And I think like what Simon's done this year is really, really good. Over the June ball tickets, we helped them. The Exec helped them make their own ball in March, which I think is a really, really good thing. And hopefully that will improve the atmosphere. But so more things like that, like helping them make their own welfare service, and they can help us with the careers service or something like that. And hopefully the atmosphere will just get a bit better and be a bit nicer. Might listen to us on security. Who knows?
Thanks very much, guys. Catherine's had 24 hours to prepare her 2.5-minute answer to this question that was set by Daisy, and it's how would you prioritise the various aspects of the SLO's role and why?
Okay, hi guys. Most people, well, I didn't know when I was a fresher what SLO actually stood for, so I thought I'd tell you a couple of things about the role first. So for those who I've canvassed, I apologise for taking up your time, but SLO kind of means organising freshers and also gaining sponsorship opportunities for the JCR throughout the term and throughout the entire year, sorry. And I would devise a plan to, sorry, the question was?
How would you prioritising
the role?
And what?
So priorities, they come and go for the SLO role because it's more on a calendar basis rather than you have to do this all the time, you have to do that all the time. So open days are coming up. Some of you might have gone on them. It was your first chance to see Castle and experience what it was like. So they are coming up at the end of March and I'd have to focus on them first. After exams and Easter, I would focus on organising Freshers Week because it's so important and that is your first taste of college. After October and after that's all done, I would focus on firstly getting the sponsorship committee up and running, which is really important, and thanks to Daisy there's a good structure there already. And then you have to contact local businesses for local sponsorship deals, which is what I want to improve on for next year. And contact big businesses so that we get the sponsorship for all the balls before we need it. So there's forward planning that needs to be done because last year June ball sponsorship started in May and we just didn't get any because all the companies had already given their stuff out. So to conclude, you kind of need to do it on a timely basis.
Alright, thanks very much. I'm going to open it up to questions from the floor. Does anyone have something they'd like to ask about the role of sponsorship and liaison officer? Or people think of something to say, perhaps you'd like to pick a point from your manifesto that you think's particularly important.
You've got a question.
You got a question? Great.
From 1 to 10, could you rate yourself?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
1 to 10, can I rate myself?
I think he means rate your suitability.
Do you mean to the role or my attractiveness? Because I have answers for both. So for the role, sorry. There were 5 people who were going for this role, and it's not good that I am uncontested. But how do I rate myself for the role? I'm organised, I have experience, so I've been on the sponsorship committee, I do the June Ball sponsorship at the moment, and I feel that I'm approachable, which I think is a big part of sponsorship, and you have to consistently be emailing or phoning people for companies, and I think just consistency is a big thing, so I'd rate myself at a 7. But that's also a rating for how hot I am as well, so whichever. Thanks, Noel.
Okay, do you have any questions?
Every year the SLO says they're going to get more sponsorship from local businesses. That's clearly not as easy as it sounds. What are you going to do to make sure that local businesses support the college more?
It's not very easy, as we've seen, to get sponsorship from local businesses. What are you going to do to garner the support of local businesses for college?
Well, some of you might have gone to the CCA launch, which Henry Winlow and I kind of headed up, and we walked around the town and went into local businesses and explained our situation and said, can you maybe give us 20% off or a voucher for 2 or things like that. And I know that's for charity, but I think there were so many businesses who were so eager to interact with college and to get publicity from the event that I think it will be possible, especially with some of the beauty places where we already have a strong connection.
Great, thanks. Will, at the back there?
Why should I vote for someone who only ranks themselves as a 7 out of 10 and not for the role?
Why should Will vote for someone who thinks they're only a 7 out of 10 for the role and not vote for reopened nominations?
Well, that is a difficult one. I don't really think... I'm not a 10.
I think 7 out of 10 is definitely
7 out of 10 is
above
pretty
average.
decent.
Do we have someone else on the floor?
This year you weren't involved with the running of Freshers Week. Do you see that as an obstacle for next year when you're organising Fresher Week?
Do you see it as an obstacle not being involved in running Freshers Week this year, having to organise it next year?
Well, as most of the second years will remember, there was strong competition to be a FREP or to be on welfare, and I obviously wasn't on that. But I think that there's a general good format for Freshers Week, which I hope to follow, and by working with campaigns and welfare, whoever gets those, and they were both there in some capacity, and I will work well with them to organise it and make it the best it can be.
Robin?
Yeah, you briefly talked about the sponsorship committee. Could you maybe explain a little bit to us what kind of structure you would like to implement next year for this?
Could you talk about your plans for the sponsorship committee? Any structure that you'd like to implement?
Yeah, so sponsorship committee is organised in October, November of the first term. That allows freshers and second years to both apply. So it's basically an interview with relevant work experience, but enthusiasm is required as well. And I would try and organise it so that if someone has a specific interest in trying to go after local sponsorship, they could have that role, or if they wanted to contact companies for formals, they could have that role. So you kind of divide it up between careers talks, sponsored formals, helping June Ball sponsorship, and if anyone has a particular interest in one area, they would definitely go for that.
Matt?
There's general consensus that Freshers Week was really well run, but it could be more stuff in the daytime. So if you got the role, what would you, how would you improve that aspect?
So, do you have any plans for activities, daytime activities in Freshers Week?
Yeah.
So going around the freshers and canvassing them was really interesting, hearing about what they kind of thought of freshers. As you said, loads of people enjoyed it, but they did want more daytime activities. So I want more mingling without the alcohol, so during daytime, maybe over tea and toast, but during the day, or the Newcastle trip, which didn't actually run. If that could be better organised, it could be kind of a fun school trip out. And I think that'd be a good idea. And other people wanted a relaxing time. So conversely, you could have just a 3-hour break where they don't have to do anything and they can just have a film on the JCR and they can come and go wherever they want.
Matt at the back.
I couldn't see anything on your manifesto, but I know it's quite a high priority issue for a lot of the JCR. So I was wondering if you could tell us your plans for procuring a college tractor, which we driven around. I'm being serious.
You'll have to submit that as a private motion to the JCR. Jonathan at the back.
What obstacles do you think there are for someone on the exec who's living out, and how do you think they could overcome them?
What obstacles are there for someone on the exec who is living out, and how do you think you could overcome them?
To be honest, I don't really see it as any obstacle at all. Why should I live in college? I'm going to be living in Clay Park, which is a 2-minute walk away. I will almost always be in college so that everyone can approach me. I'll always be on minstrels or in the low, and I'll happily meet with people if they have any issues regarding sponsorship. I'll also attend every JCR meeting, any meetings that I need to attend. But I also get the benefit of living out with some great friends and eating whatever food I want rather than stuff in serve room, which is lovely.
Pete?
If you are elected, in a year's time, what kind of impression or legacy would you like to have left?
If you're elected in 1 year's time, what sort of impression or legacy would you like to have left?
The legacy... which I would have liked to have left, is one with more sponsorship deals that affect JCR students, Castle students regularly. So that's 20% off at cafe or 20% off your haircut. Just things that help us save money in the long term. I'd also like to leave a structure behind which Daisy has started, and I will hopefully continue if I'm elected.
Niall?
With the screening spaces in college and you living out next year, based on your previous answer, would you agree that you don't need an exec to do your role?
Sorry, what was that?
So do you need an exec room? There's been a lot of discussion about it in the last few years. Do you think that you need an exec room personally or not?
Do you think that you need an exec room available on the ballot?
Is that just for SLO or for...
Just for you.
Just for SLO.
Oh, you did answer.
Yeah.
Just answer.
Yeah.
It's okay now.
That's right. Yeah.
Sponsorship can be quite frustrating. Do you think you'll be able to keep the sponsorship committee motivated, and how do you plan to do that?
Sponsorship can be frustrating. How do you plan to keep the sponsorship committee motivated?
By actually... well, sponsorship can be frustrating. Saying no to, well, being told no by many companies over email or by phone, or by someone in HR is annoying. You're right. However, I think you just got to have the attitude where you just get through it and continue. And then when you actually have some successes, they are even better because they make ends better and things like that, and have a real tangible effect on college.
Okay, I think this might be the last question. We're getting close to the end. Paul, would you like to finish off?
Sponsored formals aren't that easy to come by. What are you going to do to make Castle formals that bit more attractive to potential sponsors?
What are you going to do to make Castle formals that much more attractive to potential sponsors for sponsored formals?
Well, to be honest, it is very difficult to get sponsored formals because it's a lot of an investment for a company who doesn't actually understand what a formal is, firstly. So you need to get that point across. You need to show that you've had successful formals, for example, the EY one last term. But I'm also trying to get different careers, different business areas in. So we're having Teach First in for a careers talk soon, which isn't a sponsored formal, but is sponsored with wine. So you might not get a sponsored formal, but you'll get free wine.
Alright, just to be fair, because I asked this to the other candidates, would you like to pick one point from your manifesto, perhaps the strongest point, and just elaborate on that to finish?
I've already spoken about what I probably feel is my strongest point, which is the local sponsorship a bit. So I'll talk about collating details, which is kind of administrative and a little bit boring. But someone came to me on the June Board Committee and asked, oh, could you tell me who the sponsors were for last year and the year before that? Well, last year we didn't really have any, but the year before that I had no idea, because we just don't keep any of that information. So I want to be able to keep that kind of information and pass it down through the exec so that we can back ourselves and say, actually, we had EY and Travis Smith and loads of other windows and things like that in like 2007, so that we can say to our companies that we are sponsorable, if that is a word, which it isn't. Yeah, that's about it.
Great, thank you very much. What do you see as the main responsibilities of the campaigns officer, and what qualities do you have that will enable you to successfully fulfil this role?
Well, there are three main responsibilities for campaigns officer. The most visible one is definitely running all the welfare campaigns within college. So that's things like Shy Week, Unique Week, Respect Week, Stress Less, all those campaigns. Really make sure that they're relevant to the student body, so making sure they're issues that actually affect you guys and not go off on some complete tangent. Make sure that everyone can get involved in them. Use different methods of communication, such like Facebook, New Welfare, Twitter, JCR website, and use like quizzes and surveys online, and also events in college, so that everyone has a chance to get involved. Even if it's the result or people in college. So really get people back in and get the message out there for campaigns. Second main thing is working really closely with the welfare officer. Really make sure that there's a good welfare system within college, that it's accessible, it's inclusive, and that the welfare team is organised well and kind of keep them in check and keep all of that running. And then the third main thing is acting as a result rep, which is something that I really want to kind of increase the role of. So that's including providing information and advice to first years who are signing houses for the first time, as well as including second years and third years who live out in college life. So organising events for them, and also just making them aware that the Livers Out rep, you know, if you have any issues to do with living out, come back in and have a chat, because it is kind of hard to adapt for some people. Living out's a big change, and I really want to provide support and make sure there's more for Livers Out. So the main qualities for this role, well, first of all, organisation is a big part of it. There's so much involved behind the scenes with organising campaigns, as well as to do with the welfare team. So, well, I'm organised. I'm social sec for the University College Hockey Club, and there's a lot of organisation that goes behind the scenes with that, to do with just organising events, and also whenever you're on a night out, trying to get, 30 drunk people all in one place. It is quite hard, it does take a lot of organisation responsibility. Also kind of things like time management, still keeping up with welfare and everything, and campaigns, as well as like other activities. Other main qualities, being a team player, as in working with the welfare team, working with the welfare officer, also being outgoing, because there are some issues that come up during campaigns, especially Shy Week, great campaign. Something like that really needs someone who's enthusiastic and outgoing and not really afraid to talk about issues such as sexual health. So I really think that I have that. I'm passionate and enthusiastic about welfare, So about the welfare of all the students in Castle, and I hope that my enthusiasm can really shine through campaigns, and that enthusiasm can be infectious and get everyone involved.
That was great, thanks. Do we have any questions from the floor to get us going? Yeah.
Welfare and campaigns, those two roles obviously overlap quite a bit. Why can you explain why they need to be separate roles?
Well, I think...
Sorry, I just need to repeat it to get on the camera. The roles of welfare and campaigns overlap quite a bit. Why do you think it's important to ultimately keep the roles separate?
Well, I think it's important to have kind of two main leading roles when it comes to the college welfare system, because we're dealing with over 700 students, and I think it needs kind of two main roles to organise the rest of the welfare team, and also keep a high level of support for all of the over 700 students there are. The roles, yeah, they overlap a lot, they're very fluid, and I think that really depends on the kind of people who are in those roles. So I think it would really kind of, where the strict boundaries lie is quite blurred, but I think it is quite nice to have that distinction between kind of campaigns and live result, and also just pure college welfare. And I think one of the great things about campaigns is also its role as live result rep and looking after year abroad students. I think it's great to have that aspect to it, because it's so important for people who are not necessarily living inside the college walls, don't necessarily come in every day, to still have someone to go to, because you kind of, well, say if there wasn't necessarily a live result rep, it was just kind of under kind of the umbrella of college welfare, a lot of things could get lost along the way. So I think it's important to have someone that's kind of dedicated live result and year abroad students who can kind of answer those questions as well.
Thanks. Yes?
Campaigns run in college are often quite high-profile events, which means that often people who might be a bit more introverted find it a bit more difficult to get involved. So how do you propose to get them more involved when maybe they're the people that might need it most?
Sorry, what's the first part?
The campaign's quite high-profile, so how do you propose to get
campaigns are quite high profile. How do you propose to get more introverted people in college involved in them?
Okay, well, I really want to use different methods of communication to get important messages out there. Like, that's been brought in this year brilliantly by Robin, using the website, getting up quizzes and surveys, and also things like just having a debate. We had quite a few during Shy Week on kind of like exploitation in the music industry, which was great. It got so many people involved. And even just having things on during that week, instead of having a big event in the Andy, having small things that people can just drop into the welfare room, have a chat about, and I think it's still really helpful to have those sort of things. They get the message across, and they get people thinking as well. Having great debates gets quite a lot of people involved, gets people thinking really about important issues that you wouldn't necessarily come across in everyday life. Also using kind of the JCR website, which I know has been a big thing in these elections, getting kind of quizzes, surveys, getting information up there on the JCR website I think is very important. We have a welfare page up there already, but there's so much more information we can put up there to get people who are more introverted and get them still involved, just even if they don't want to come to a night that we put on in the Andy.
Henry, in the back.
Lots of people find being on the exec a stressful experience, and lots of people take to Pilates and yoga, so you might have recent interaction. Could you demonstrate your favourite yoga position and explain a bit about it?
Being on the exec can be rather stressful. So a lot of exec will turn to Pilates or yoga in order to relieve their stress. Do you have a favourite position? Yoga.
I know we had some great yoga sessions this time in the Andy. Unfortunately, I'm too committed to academic work and had a lecture at 4 PM every Friday. But I did do a lot of refit in my time, so I do have some experience from that, and I can't remember what this one's called, but I enjoy it because it stretches a lot of body parts. Oh wait, I'm wearing a skirt, so...
Ed.
So you're running for the role of campaigns officer, and campaigns are quite often associated with songs. For example, Tony Blair's Labour campaign with the song "Things Can Only Get Better." Which would be your song for your campaign? Could you perform it for us?
What would be your campaign song, and could you perform it for us, please?
Well, this one is particularly dedicated to Shag Week, which is an important week in the campaign's calendar, and I really hope if you do know it, please, please, please join in. So yeah, it goes a little something like this. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things, all the bad things that may be. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about sex.
Joe?
As part of the welfare team, you can have to deal with some situations where people have maybe got hurt or injured something like a chin. So what would you say to someone who may be feeling a bit embarrassed about injuring themselves?
What would be your advice to someone who had injured himself, maybe in a public place, and was feeling a little bit embarrassed about it?
Go with the classic chin up. But in all seriousness, I would be more caring than that. Welfare rule. I provide lots of support and cups of tea and maybe some cake.
Yeah, Steve, something like that.
As part of the condom and as a member of Shag Week or whatever, what is your favourite condom and why?
As Castle Condom, what is your favourite condom and why?
It would have to be extra safe because contraception is key, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, contraception is key.
Do you have any other questions, Polly?
So this year during Freshers Week there was like a cake event in the welfare room which didn't happen, and that's what resulted in a lot of freshers not knowing crucial things about welfare, like where the welfare room is as late as quite recently. So aside from making sure an event like that happens, what other practical things do you think we could do in Freshers Week or throughout the year to ensure that on arrival to college everyone knows what welfare is, so when they live out they also have access to welfare?
Practical things we can do to make sure people have access to welfare and are well aware of the services it provides.
Okay, well, this is one of the main points of my manifesto. As the Vice Senior Man candidates and SLO have said, the JCR website, it has so much potential, it looks great, it just has to take the time to build it up. And I think that that's something that, you know, I could go away over the summer, get it kind of built up, and make sure that there is practical information out there for things like sexual health, mental health, even simple things like where the GP is, because they come in, everyone gets registered in college, so there's so many freshers who just don't know simple things like that, and it's not their fault at all, they just haven't been told. So I really want to get practical information up on the JCR website and in spaces around college, and not necessarily like just the welfare room, but say in the JCR, even on like the notice boards outside the library, really use those places. And I think that's especially important for people who don't want to go talk to a member of the welfare team, because it can be quite daunting, especially because the welfare team, we try to be a presence in college, we try to have our faces known, and sometimes people just don't want to go and talk to someone that they know. So I think it's important to have other channels where people can access the welfare system and really benefit from it. So for example, putting things up on the JCR website. Other JCRs have brilliant websites, but we just don't really have any content on ours yet. And that would be kind of something we can build on over the summer, so that whenever freshers come, they can have access to the material. And I think it is just kind of promoting events more, really getting things out there through the use of like Facebook, Twitter. All you need is a few retweets and it's around the college. So just really promote things more like that event, and also like campaigns, really use social media to get those out as well.
Right, I think we've only got time for one more question. Is it, okay, alright, we'll take one. If you could add a campaign, or a campaigns week, what would it be and why?
Well, one of the important issues we haven't really been addressing this year, because kind of the DSU have decided to take it over, is mental health. And I think that's a really serious issue and it's really important, and we do need to address it more. And I think, well, we've had like Mind and Body Week in the past, but I think there's something that could be done to just have a whole week concentrating on mental health, mental well-being in general, and just kind of keeping ourselves healthy. I would really like to have a campaign about that, and make sure that the message is really out there, people are talking about it and not just kind of instead of it having a bit like pushed to the side and no one really being aware of it, because it is such an important issue and it affects so many of us, and I just don't think we're talking about it enough at the moment. So a campaign on that would really be helpful, and really hopefully get people aware of the messages that we send out, and benefit the wider student community as well.